1, 2, 3, 4.
Dobro večer.
Good evening, and thank you for being with us again. Thanks to all of you who are here with us and all of those who are online. We are continuing our Privacy Week, and in a very important panel is in front of us. Drivers and infrastructure of media leaks, and we will have an interesting film tonight, and it will be possible to see it only here in this space. So I'm inviting all those who want to see the film to come here and to start immediately, because this is the only opportunity to see the film, to be here. And now I give the floor to our moderator, Dragana. Good evening from me, and thank you for coming here to Miljenko Tereta space. It's raining outside, so thank you for your enthusiasm and your engagement to be here with us tonight. We will talk about a very important topic, and I would like to thank all of you who are following us online. As you have heard, the topic of our panel will be drivers and infrastructure of media leaks, and it's a subtopic, I would say, of a very important topic, and that's privacy protection in the media. We're witnesses of privacy breaches on a daily basis, and the privacy monitoring that was performed by Partners Rabia with Professor Jelena Kleut, who is with us today, shows that it's a daily thing, and that the media very aggressively encroach upon the privacy of citizens, even when there is no public interest in that. And we are also witnessing another dangerous phenomenon, and that is that very often tabloids are used as instruments in favor of different interest groups, government first and foremost, and government agencies. And this is the topics that we will talk about today. And we will also talk about impunity, that is leaving devastating effects and consequences for society and trust in institutions. And I'm particularly happy that we have a protagonist with us tonight. So a person who, unfortunately, to his great regret and the regret of all of us, experienced the abuse of his data and has the first-hand experience. And we also have colleague Jelena Zoric, a journalist, with us tonight. This is the journalist that has been covering crime for a long time, Crime Chronicles, and Ivan Trišević from the Commissioner for Information Public Voters Personal Data Protection. He is the head of the Department for Supervision of Personal Data Protection. In principle, he will talk about the trends in supervision by the commissioner and limitations that are in place. As I said, impunity is one of the major problems in this field, and how it can be improved or further regulated. And as a journalist, I'd like to start with the protagonist of this panel, actually from the victim. Most of the people here, when he introduced himself tonight, he said, "Oh, we know you from your image." Igor Vukotic, a commercialist from Zemun, or economist, whose ID photo was published in the scheme of the Shkaljar clan or gang at the point of raging war between the two gangs, Shkaljar clan and Kavak clan. And it was just the beginning of a multi-year struggle with the media and the institutions. And Igor, I would like to hear from you about the consequences, practical consequences that it had on you and your life, because privacy breaches are treated as crimes without a victim. Nobody was robbed, nobody was killed, but there are consequences, definitely. Yes, I'm glad that you're asking that. People usually ask me different questions. What was it like to be arrested before because of the same name or the same date of birth? And it's very good to hear this question after the publication of my image. And that was the first photo of Igor Vukotic that was ever published in any media. At that point, millions of euro were offered for the head of any member. And now we are in the situation where only Igor Vukotic is alive and at large. So it was a shock for me when my friend called and said, by Blitz, and said, take a look at your biometric photo. I realized that it was not from Facebook or Instagram. It was my ID photo. And I went to the police station in Kragujevac, and I had to force them to take my statement. There was no empathy at all. I simply couldn't understand that. And my mother has a coronary disease, so she was crying all the time. My friends, my family, my children were 7 and 12, and it was difficult to them to explain why his father was not taking them for a walk for 6 months. So it was difficult to publish the right information anywhere, and thanks to Birn, I was able to publish the information that it was not me. And all others that I contacted did not want to fall into the bad book of Ringier Axel, or whatever is the name of the publishing, the printing house. And there was no empathy. All the other media said, sue us, and they wanted to blackmail me to charge me for a denial on the 15th page, like 100,000 dinars. So I was left alone by government institutions, by all institutions, and I got a piece of advice from some police officers off the record. He said, there is nothing worse, and because without these two gangs, all those tabloids wouldn't have anything to write about. And every month, 100 or 200 young Montenegrins come to Belgrade, and half of them work for the Kovac clan gang, half of them for this other Škaljar clan or gang. So please beware. And after 6 months, I had to start working because I live on the average wage. And then they gave me advice to change the address and to change my appearance. And I started to grow beard, and and that was because of alopecia. I contracted that due to stress, and let alone this insult and violation of my honor. In September, when they killed my so-called brother, or brother under quotation marks, Jovan, then by accident, in a number of the media, and I don't want to watch the media. I just follow sports and nothing else. My friend, my female friend that was in Montenegro, she was on vacation there, and she sent me the information that on the 11th of September last year, that Igor Vukovic is now the head of the Škaljar gang after the assassination of Jovan Vukotic. And as you know, that this Zvitser is one of the most dangerous people. Even President Vučić is afraid of them, and his son has security. But I believe that this Zvitser would first kill his rival, and I went to the police to report that, and it is on the pink portal, and it's from the text which says not the picture of the right Igor, and they were writing the secret of the gang was discovered, and I reported that as well, these articles, and they said, oh, there's nothing for prosecution here, I was safe, and I wanted them to give me statement claiming that I'm safe and secure, but as I said, nobody wants to make a statement that I'm not secure, so they let me go home. And it was less than a month, a while. The previous event was a month before that, so I don't know. You can judge if I'm safe. My high officials say I'm safe and secure, and I was very afraid when that happened, because we see that crime chronicles, for example, this Puzovic, who said that I haven't created the probability of my insecurity. I believe that when a lady comes to him complaining about her husband, she would say that she is safe, and then one day sometime later, she appears dead, killed by her husband. And I no longer think about whether I'm safe or not.
But who was responsible? It was actually the issue tackled by the Office of the Commissioner. And even we all know that this investigation actually hit a wall of silence. It turned out that his data, actually the profile was inspected on 3 occasions in the primary ID application, where data on all of us are kept. So it can happen that somebody with the BIA or the Interior Ministry card accesses your information and leaks them. And you did not find out whose card this was. Thank you for the invitation, and I'm glad that I'm here. So far, we have not found this out. A criminal report was filed to the prosecution, and this is where our role ended. The court is independent. We are an independent authority. We did what we could do. So you don't have an opportunity to ask the prosecution and follow the case. No. If we have filed everything, which we did, we are waiting for the prosecution, and the prosecution is waiting for the case to fall under the statute of limitation. Is this something that you see frequently in practice? So we're talking about information leaks from institutions to media. And when an investigation is initiated, when I was preparing for this panel, I was reading about just 7 judgments in such cases since 2015. So does this lead us to the conclusion that this is actually practice rather than an exception? Well, it depends on the method that you're using. What is the main thing? The Commissioner for the Protection of Information of Public Importance is not competent under Article 78. Chapters from 2 to 6 are not applied on investigative reporting. So our hands are tied. We have the possibility to hand over our case file and inform other authorities. In this case, this can be the Ministry of Information. So this is one of the possibilities for our future action, but it is not really good to place limitations on the media. We should investigate what has happened in this case, and we should look into the merits. If something similar happens, we should see what it is, whether something was made public or a piece of data was made available. So this is a very specific and a very difficult situation, but in this particular case, things are completely clear. Everything rests upon the prosecution. So far, we have not had too many cases. You mentioned 7. 7. Uroš, our colleague, is here. He will know 7 judgments so far. In situations when data send information to the media without any grounds. This is very difficult to prove. We have actually those authorities that are in charge of force, and it's very difficult to prove. It's upon the prosecution to do their part of the job. Everything that we could, we did. We apply the law on inspection supervision, and we conducted the inspection of the Interior Ministry. Part of this issue is this criminal report, but a lot has been done in this case, and we have done everything that we could. It's upon the prosecution to do something about it. Yes. I will ask Jelena, because you're saying this is a specific situation, but to us as readers, it seems that we have such situations on a daily basis. As I've said in the introduction, there are 2 groups of information that can be recognized, those that are leaking from institutions. One set feeds the curiosity of the readers, and the other group refers to the information that is deliberately placed in the media in order to satisfy certain interests. Who has appeared in your monitoring when we talk about institutions and the media? You have been dealing with this monitoring for years, and probably you have recognized certain trends to that end. And can we say that this is a relationship of transactions among institutions? It seems that there is no dilemma that information is leaking from some place. It's difficult to see whether this is the police or the prosecution, depending on the stage on which media reports are dealing with. It seems that this is the police, or in your case, BIA. It seems that the prosecution is not so guilty about information leaks, and we can see some patterns regarding some information that is not known even to the closest family members that are leaked. And presenting those information, some roundtables, there are serious indications that some information desks have their people at the police. When we conducted research with Focus on the groups whose rights to privacy are violated by the media, there are many villages, rural areas in Serbia from which news stories are coming, and it's probably the only news that you have heard from those places. So the only institution from which the information came from initiated some stories. But we should add that in addition to the police, there are also some serious problems with social centers. We've had several cases which were rather sensitive because they involved children, where social centers did not do enough to protect their beneficiaries, children or mothers. And frequently, healthcare institutions, and especially in the case of public figures, believe that just because somebody is a public figure, it's permitted to take a photo of the bed in a hospital where, for example, an actor is lying. So it is like an invitation to journalists to come freely and to take photographs, and this is something that actually attracts clicks. And this is how media earn their living. It frequently this is actually defended by the public interest, and our colleagues from the media who apply this business model usually say we are a commercial medium, we're working on the market and we need the audience, we need somebody to read this and to be attracted to this. Jelena, based on your experience, you have frequently dealt with some topics that are borderline. You reported on a very sensitive case of a false psychiatric diagnosis that were filed for some people. How can we protect people's privacy?
How is it abused in the media? A couple of days ago, I came across an absurd situation. Let's start with this most recent example. When tabloids that are fighting for these clicks and when their portals decided to abide by the privacy law, namely, a girl was killed in the municipality of Zvezdara just before New Year's, and the police conducted an extensive investigation, DNA analysis were carried out, and the police have grounded suspicion, and the prosecutor that certain male person from Montenegro is a suspect. In the first days after the murder, that man left some messages of regret, of compassion on his Instagram profile because of the murder of that girl. And on one photo, he's with his child, minor child, a girl, decorating the Christmas tree with him. And at the point when he was declared to be a suspect, the media just thought of him and published that photo with his child and blurred his face and left the child's face visible. So, and then I thought, this is really absurd. Even when they want to protect the privacy, they don't know how to do that, and they don't know what the explanation is. And how can you convict someone in court just because they're dumb, because they're stupid? And as for the public interest, yes, there is this limit. In this text on false diagnosis, the public interest was that in protecting the names of interlocutors who were injured parties, even at the cost of not being believed. We gave them some nicknames. It's a danger for our work. Maybe somebody can say it's not credible, you're not showing the documents. And if we show the documents, we will reveal personal data. So people have to believe us, to take our word for things. But you have to build your credibility over time in order to be able to offer such story with so much description and so little evidence. And that's the public interest. Even at the price of not being believed, I think we did the right thing. Definitely the right thing, because public interest is above media interest or any click. Even that public interest is above the interest of the police, or police officers, or security information agency. Regardless of how much they present themselves as somebody who is representing the state. I think it's very ugly to have these double standards when it comes to ordinary citizens. Let's take Mr. Vukotic's case. I'm following and covering crime and different issues in the field of crime, and there was a situation with a police officer, a great murder investigator, and he started discovering certain things and detecting certain things leading to organized crime groups linked to powerful government structure. And while he was doing that, the tenant of his mother-in-law ran away without paying his bills. And he, as the inspector, entered the database to see the information about the data on that tenant, to see whether an address change occurred. So the intention was good, but it was not the good thing to do. And so when some of these power wielders were bothered by what he was detecting related to the organized crime group, they accused him of unauthorized access to private data. And it's unbelievable how thorough they were, because his code remained and his code was no. And when BIA and police members do that, it's just a matter of interest. It's tacitly approved. Nobody will be held to account for that. If that helps the media to have more clicks, that will be okay, and nothing would have happened had it not stepped on somebody's toes in his work in detecting murders. So they were trying to find something against him, and they just thought of that law. And we have the Commissioner for the Protection of Personal Data, and proceedings were conducted against him. Despite the fact that it doesn't happen on a regular basis, it's not done on a regular basis, and it's mostly done when it comes to crime. Things are happening fast there, and detection has to be quick, and everybody's involved in this type of abuse, from lowest ranked police officer to the highest executives. And everybody can be a victim, from an ordinary citizen who shares the same first and last name as the head of the criminal gang, up to the prosecutor. In the Šarić case, this is the prosecutor's office for organized crime, so it's creme de la creme in the prosecution, one of the most reputable prosecution offices in the country. And you have this major criminal gang. This is world-class piece of news, and then somebody starts bothering that and harassing that prosecutor. So he has to come to work before everybody else, much before the working hours. He can't visit any restaurants. He's in self-isolation in order to make lives easier to the police officers who are safeguarding him. And then he's also receiving threats. And then all of a sudden his photo appears on a portal. And that was actually that person. And you will read in Byrne what the outcome of that case was.
Tell me, after everything that we've heard, it seems discouraging that justice is such a selective category, meaning that things that might look like a positive result are actually motivated by some completely different reasons. Like in the case that Jelena quoted, what do you see as a possible solution? What could be a step forward from your perspective? There are two possibilities. One is to amend the law that we are applying slightly, and the second is the law on public information and media. But I don't want to delve into that. Let's then speak about the law which is within your competence. Well, maybe the law on the protection of personal data could be a bit more restrictive. It's a bit awkward when the law is restrictive and media is in question. and a serious study has to be made about this. We have to observe the practice, we have to see what has happened and to find a solution. The only thing would be to amend the law. As for us, we are really working on those cases. Well, the only institution that I received a response from is you and the ombudsman, who explained that under article this and that and article this and that, they are not competent for this case. You are the only one who actually reacted. And if somebody, Igor, were in the same situation as you, what would be your advice to this person? Where to go? Who to contact? Where did you find consolation and protection? Well, flee from Serbia as soon as possible, which I would have done if if I were not divorced and if my kids were not at my wife's place and I have to see them. I would have fled, certainly. When Pablo Escobar entered politics, I think that he dreamt about a state such as this one, but he did not live long enough to see it. When I enter a police station, frankly speaking, it's as if I enter a crime nest. I had a few incidents when I was giving a statement. What do you want? No empathy whatsoever. I do not know if they are criminals or police officers. When I came public for the first time, I would have, if I were in the shoes of somebody who had a grudge with somebody, I would have placed his photo in the media. And the entire state is treating this media as if I were, as if my photo was mixed up with the photo of a celebrity's boyfriend. I have to say that there's no advice because the entire system is placed upside down. For example, the car exhaust banged when I was driving in a car with my best friend, and we jumped. We did not know what was going on. I was constantly looking behind me. My blood pressure went through the roof. They constantly asked me whether somebody is threatening me. Well, did somebody threaten Jovan when they were following him for 4 months and then eventually killed him? When this happened, I was contacted by Milorad, and I was afraid because I did not know if it was good to go public, to go into media or not. And a year later, Kurit found this interesting, and they wanted to publish that this was not me. And this was the photo that they later used, the one that I showed. And they took out everything that that referred to BIA. And on their portal, I could never actually place a comment there. They put a comment, I know you, you're lying that it's not you. You sold tons of drugs throughout Budva, Montenegro, and now you're afraid when they started killing your family. And now 300 my friends, acquaintances were writing comments, and the administrator did not allow them. And because of clicks, actually nobody posted this. This was actually posted by somebody from their desk, because this state needs reality shows and Latin soap operas. And empathy, I could not believe this. I don't think that there's any empathy in the media in Serbia. Because when I came to Blitz as a victim, Blitz editor Maria Kosanovic says, we don't care. Why didn't you publish a correction? Well, it doesn't matter, but their heart goes out to a rich man's daughter or something. They're the first to react as a desk. If I were not as old as I am, 47, I would have probably fled as far as I can. For those people who do not know, we should say that Blitz has never published a correction. They have never said that this was not me. And the reason? Well, I don't know what it is. And this is what frightens me. What frightens me is that wherever I wanted to come and be a guest in institution, in the media, I heard that BII did not allow me to go. I've heard it on several occasions, and it's probably because all those news go to them, and then they grant permissions for what can be published and what cannot. I was interested because I had this match with this person, and I was always afraid that somebody might believe that it is a case of actually that I'm somebody else. 6 or 7 people were already killed as cases of mistaken identities, and I know for sure that I have a friend in BIA who tells me that I should give this up. He knows who this person is. Everybody knows who this person is. He's happily working, and he will probably receive his retirement from BIA. He's still working, and he's receiving his salary from my contributions that I pay. I would be the happiest if the prosecution determined that he made a violation, and I will not speak calmly before they prosecute the case and prosecute him. Because anything that happens, my photo appears again. And all the things that happen after that actually indicates that this change of identity or mistaken identity case is not an accident. I was a member of the military in 1998. Have never been convicted. I have never filed for possessing a weapon. And when this happened, police officers told me at least change your address or try to get a weapon. And I did not have a place to go, so I filed for getting a weapon, and I was rejected. And they told me that they carefully went through all the facts, and I did not prove it likely that my safety was endangered, and therefore they could not give me a permit. I did not need this weapon, but maybe I would have slept more calmly. This was something that I wanted to try to see whether something was actually working. And we know that convicted criminals have permits for firearms, because those who are convicted are safer. So what can I tell you? I wouldn't give any advice to anybody, and I would not want anybody to experience what I have gone through. There are actually two groups of people, politicians and criminals, because I don't see any difference between them. And who else? Politicians and criminals and people who, the rest of us, actually, the rest of us, yes. So for us, I don't know a single institution. You were the only one who reacted, any institution that could have made me feel a bit safer.
Jelena, you published today a text which, how should I put it, gives a good introduction to this topic, and this is precisely about information leakages from institutions towards the mafia, to Darko Šarić's gang, and then from them to the media. And they actually exert influence on media contents in order to delegitimize the collaborating witness and to ruin the whole operation and this whole case. And for people who haven't read the text, and generally, I would like to hear something about the role of the media from you in that context. It is, of course, legitimate, and I don't want to be misconstrued by anybody. I'm not calling into question the need for the journalist or a journalist to communicate with institutions, with a defense counsel, with the criminals, but how to avoid being just a loudspeaker for the information that was served to them. Each and every journalist will have to decide on their own, but it's a long road. Let's start from the beginning. On birn.rs, in this text from in this text on Darko Šarić, the source was in the police, against the police, to inflict damage on the police. And in this, according to the indictment, this gang has several people on their payroll, and from one person from that list, they get the information very quickly, and they manage to fabricate the information by some of the people. Because one of Šarić's friend was issued a license to carry weapon, not just to possess weapon, but also to carry weapon. One of the corrupt police officers in that service issued that license, approved that license. It's a police officer in the service for fighting organized crime, and the prosecutor has a big problem. The collaborating witness calls and says that he's getting strange messages, that there are rumors that they will try to frame him, and this animosity has been going on for years, and they are trying to frame each other for years, but he got very concrete information that the people very close to Darko Šarić are hanging around Valjevo, let's say, and the prosecutor automatically requests surveillance, investigation, and so on. And a month later, wiretapping was initiated, and special investigative techniques were deployed, and they learned about that on the same day. So since they know that this was going on, they give instruction to false witnesses, telling them what to say, and they go to the police, they approach the police themselves, or these corrupt police officers arrest them, and they are starting to talk about against this collaborating witness, and the police operation ordered by the prosecution and the prosecutor is failing, and the other operation is flourishing against the collaborating witness that is actually orchestrated by the Šarić gang. And then they concluded that it should be published in the media. They got tired from taking care of where they are going or what they are saying over the phone. So it's something that makes them very tired, and they want to shift that to the media. And then they give it to the lawyer, and he's not part of the gang at that time, and there is nothing disputable about the media speaking to the defense attorneys, but every journalist has to decide when he or she gets the information whether the source has any vested interest in that particular story, and whether they can put anybody in danger, or whether they can put themselves in danger. These are legitimate questions to be asked in the case of investigative journalism. And these journalists said, we don't care what is going to happen. We have an exclusive story, and we will go for it. So it's a wrong approach in investigative journalism, but it's not violation of the law. Publishing that is not a violation of the law, but the result was that they thwarted the police operation when it was published in Pink and in Kurir. All the details were given in Kurir, the name of the operation, and the police officers are saying in front of their colleagues who are actually working for the Šarić gang, according to the indictment. So it will not work. Everybody, even the most reputable TV stations are saying that we are applying these special investigative techniques. And then Kurir said, it's obvious that we are not under Sharic's control because he was not happy with our title, but he was happy with the effect that it's much worse. But this text has more blatant examples related to gifts for journalists. Well, that's pure corruption. Or commissioning texts against the collaborating witness. We updated our text with a piece of information that they had during the afternoon. They had the photo of the layout of the page in Blitz. So somebody from the papers, from the news desk or editorial staff could do that. So when you compare the actual text that was published and that photo, they match completely. And you also have TV stations with natural frequencies, and they try to pose themselves as somebody holding high moral grounds, and they write or communicate in many very inappropriate terms, and they use the very ugly subtitle, Yoksa has to be detained, and they said what the media outlets are doing, it's over the top, and just look at what they are doing. And a colleague from Click had a situation because he communicated with Darko Šarić's defense attorney. He's also defending Belivuk. We all communicated with him because he's a defense lawyer. But my colleague from Click, who communicated with that defense attorney and who never thwarted any police operation or anything else because of his communication. So the information leaked either from BIA or from the Ministry of the Interior, and journalists were told that he was communicating with the defense attorney, and they attacked him, and there was a very specific question. Have you spoken, did you speak to a lawyer, Lazarevich, before going to this TV show called The Impression of the Week, Utisak Nedelje? And they knew the hour, the day, they like said at 5 in the afternoon. And they called him a member of the mafia, or they called him names. And he said they called him a useful idiot because they said that he didn't understand that a defense attorney cannot be a reliable source because he would work only in the interest of his client. And it's their defense today.
Exactly like the question, who ordered the text? Which only talks about the mentality of certain newspapers. Well, to read everything that we worked on, you can see everything from it. Even mentioned the law on information and the possibility of amending it, and this is one of the laws within media regulations that are being reviewed. What is your position, Jelena? Do you think that the current regulations leave room for reaction in situations such as these? Do regulation make sense if we observe the digital environment in which the media operate? Well, I think that it still makes sense. We should modernize it to make it catch up with the digital world, but we have decent regulations, although they are not applied, or if they are applied, they're applied selectively. So you don't really know what is going on. in the regulations. And the law on public information regulates very precisely how media should act. And it is a fact that there is a gap between the data that the commissioner is talking about and what the media are talking about. Because even if the media get information, they have to filter the information out to see what they will publish. So the media reporting is something completely different. Our authorities are either inert or apply double standards whenever we have situations such as this one. You can see how a regulatory body for electronic media stands up to the defense of some imaginary liberty, imaginary freedom. There's no freedom. The media the media that are publishing Igor's photo are not free. It's obvious that they do not have this freedom because they cannot invite him to be their guest because BIA is prohibiting them to. Exactly, this is an excuse and a living discussion for a completely different area. I think that the legislation could be modernized a little bit. What we see at an increasing rate that media publish photos from social media. This is quite easy. We can see how things are perpetuated just because somebody was lazy and typed in your name and the first photo that came out was yours. In this case, in Igor's case, the situation is much more complicated. Those photos are not signed. There is a code which is very well done. It refers to the media behavior online. And it refers to this delicate nature of social media, but we know very well that the media that we're mentioning here specifically do not apply the code of ethics. They are they have repeated this countless times, and no sanctions exist for them. We are moving in vicious circles. On the contrary, actually, those media are co-financed by the government. They do not pay electricity bills. They are freed from paying them. They get all sorts of incentives, and we're talking about some interest groups and the political and economic crime relations, crime connections. And in this perspective, when an ordinary man finds himself amid that, he's completely unprotected. Now that you're mentioning it, I was told by the police that only politicians and criminals get security. I don't know if anybody else does this. Oh, well, journalists. But why does a journalist need it? Why would somebody guard me? They should guard criminals and politicians. Unfortunately, this is so. An example from a few days ago. A criminal was shot in Zemun, and I'm from Zemun, and they launched Operation Whirlwind. It's as if something great happened. I did not go out that evening, I have to say. So it's so absurd. And I did some business with hotels. Hotel owners tell me that criminals come to spend time there together with police cars, 2 police cars, for example, and they accompany them in order for this criminal to ski. And later, when there is a trial, those criminals get they actually get monitoring. They get an anklet, which is actually they are sentenced to home arrest with supervision. So I know that my friends who work at public institutions have to carry flags to meetings, to rallies. I think that this is the right time to get some questions from the audience. I don't know if somebody is keeping track of any questions online, if we have them. Are there any questions? Yes, Uroš? Uroš Mišljanović. Igor, I would like to hear something about the court proceedings that you have against the media, since there are no court proceedings against the source of information. As far as I understood, you have sued them. Well, we're waiting for the statute of limitations to start applying. Before the panel, I checked for some news in the anti-corruption department of the High Court, and they are playing dead, as one of my friends said, for more than 6 months. They gave me just one piece of information at the very beginning, and they have provided no response. And the press council also condemned them. They gave them instructions. Blitz did not react, and a year and a half later, I got 220,000 dinars as indemnity, but they did not print a correction. I sued an unidentified person. I did not know whether he was from the Interior Ministry or from BIA, but I learned from some sources that he's in the BIA, and he will probably wait for his retirement there. I will now file a lawsuit against one of the portals and those newspapers that I know about in Montenegro, and I'm looking forward to astronomical amounts of 200 or 300 euros. I was wondering whether I should sue BIA. I understand that journalists want to protect their sources, but if those sources bring an ordinary person in danger, they should actually disclose the source. The source who brought me into this situation and ruined my life. Nobody asked them about this. So I asked them whether somebody could go to the Pink Television and ask the journalists who this is, whether they made a mistake. Nobody did anything. And I cannot sue the state because according to the law, I need to receive the name and family name of this person and file a lawsuit against him because he abused his office under Article 359, and depending on the level of his offense, he can get between 1 and 8 years of prison, but in this case he might also get a promotion because he did this against somebody who's on the margins, and this is an ordinary citizen.
I will follow the path of exerting pressure on institutions because they know who has that card for access. I'd rather opt for that than pressure on the media to reveal their sources because it's a hard-fought privilege or hard-fought option that we have. And they confirmed that it was from BIA, and they even said they complained because they had to pay 200,000 dinars to me because it was BIA's fault and they couldn't check this information. And it's a high fine compared to other fines imposed for this offense. It sounds absurd, but we will look at we'll see the film after this debate. Srđan Švelja. by Srđan you asked about a fine. I said when their lawyer was trying to blackmail me to sign for 100,000 dinar, go home happy, and he said, "Are you crazy? To publish denial on the first page? Do you know what's the price of that cover page? I will rather go to court than publish that on the first page, because this cover page is worth more than your life." So that's about these fines. I think journalism would have been more regular or more just had these fines been much higher. If they had to pay 1 million euro to me, then the next journalist would be careful about publishing information. They would check their sources, and they wouldn't say, "Oh, that was by accident." I heard that I received a huge amount. For example, a person that was declared to be a pedophile, he was paid 50,000 dinars. This will the film after this debate. He has 15 cases against the media, only one judgment or maybe two so far. So he is not a politician, not a criminal or a singer, popular singer. He was not known before becoming known thanks to the media. And I even published on LinkedIn. I don't know where else to publish that. I didn't have any other place to publish that. For example, I was known in these business circles. Even parents of my children's friends knew me, so I had to publish something. But it's a fact. Media outlets and particularly tabloids, they have budgets for these settlements, so this is pure calculation for them. Also, police officers get presents. We know that some department heads or station heads have nice suits. I believe that if these fines were and penalties were more drastic, and if the prosecution offices were doing their job properly, it would be better. I would follow up on what's been said so far. So we have described the situation, but what are the solutions? There are obviously no solutions there. It's a question for Professor Cloud, first and foremost. How people go about these problems in other countries? I think that this idea about high fines that would result in establishing a law firm, reading these tablets and instituting proceedings. That will be one. Just take any tablet and see how many people are there. People who were hurt in accidents, car accidents, or whichever, or fires. So these are people who have no knowledge or resources to start battling with the media, and their troubles are just, something cheap for the media. And another path would be stronger institutions, and we don't have that. Courts are also slow. Very often they do not understand the damage that was inflicted, that what you're talking about is horrible. This is destroying the quality of your life and the life of your family. In a normal country, the quality of life of an individual is a very important thing. I think it doesn't exist in our country. There is not enough understanding in our country, and I think that should have a much more important role. And I hear that there is a number of laws that are being drafted and prepared for adoption to increase the role of the press council. And if somebody was reprimanded for violating codes of ethics because on a number of occasions I think it's highly inappropriate for that media outlet to get public funds. And I would like to hear from Ivan what he sees as potential solution. We touched upon this issue of institutions performing their job, but is there anything else that you can see as a solution? Solution is always with people. I graduated from political sciences and attended classes with people from journalism department. And I heard some things there, and I cannot recognize such journalists nowadays, unfortunately. I think that there is a lot of degradation or some degradation in that profession. There is a poor tendency there, definitely. I don't know whether it's a consequence of the wars that were waged here, or whatever, but I think it boils down to people, journalists, and solutions should be sought in individuals. So personal responsibility is crucial there. I'm afraid that it might be a system-related problems. It comes to individuals, or boils down to individuals, just as Yelena said. Even if they want to do something, they don't know how.
Let me say something in the defense of the journalist. We get good stories from information leaks, and information leaks are something that's very useful. Stories which are in the public interest are actually a result of information leaks. But do you know when this happens? It happens both in the public interest and against the public interest. And it happens when you do not have transparency. The only solution here, instead of punishments and repression in this country, whenever we don't have a solution for something, we resort to repression. Things should be stricter. No, transparency would solve this problem. You communicate with the Interior Ministry, you communicate with the BA. And when a case occurs, like in the case of Igor Vukotic, they publish a photo and say there's a warrant for his arrest. There can be no speculations or passing the buck. Information leaks drop as transparency rises. And unfortunately, in Serbia, we do not have transparency because we have almost hermetically closed institutions. That's why only you are here today. We have time for just one question, if there is a question. Yes?
Hi, I'm Bogdan Manolea from Romania. Have you tried to ask Google to de-index the link to the websites that contain your name, or not to name your photo in those contexts? Maybe you can translate that.
Da li ste probali da skinete sadržaj vama čišćenje?
Have you tried to remove the history? I was contacted by A11 Initiative, I think that's their name, and they told me that there was this option. But unfortunately, wherever my photo was posted on the portals, it was deleted later. I heard that it remains in Google history and that this could be found. Frankly speaking, I have not requested that because I did not attach any attention to this because I was fed up with everything. We need to go to an institution in our country. This is for cybercrime. I think they should approve this. I should say that there are lawyers' offices who deal with this specifically, and to make things more absurd, the reputation of criminals and suspicious businessmen is cleaned up mostly, and this is how we get requests. Well, this is a good idea. I will deal with it. Maybe it's not a bad course of action because this started only now at portals a few months ago. Before that, it appeared only in the printed media. So the next time we see you, we will get an update on this topic. If there are no further questions, I would like to thank you for your participation, for your frank and open insights, and I would invite you all to stay for the showing of the movie, which will start in some 15 minutes. After that, we will hear from Alexander Relic, the director of this film, and we will talk about with him also. Thank you.
Samo mala napomena za sve projekte.
Just a short remark for all.